Hello and welcome. You're listening to the SPAG Dialogue podcast.
Hello, everyone. I'm Neha Chandra, Healthcare Communication Specialist with SPAG, and today I'm in conversation with Sreekala Nair, psychologist working with Dr. Ashok Vaid at Medanta, the Medicity. She counsels cancer patients and has been doing that since the year of 2015. Ma'am, on account of World Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we are here to discuss and understand about therapy for a breast cancer patient and their support system, their family, their peer group. Now, the word cancer continues to strike fear in us, but from reading about it to getting diagnosed and going through the treatment, the journey is daunting to say the least. And in India, when we especially speak about breast cancer, we know that it's the most common cancer in women. One woman is diagnosed with breast cancer in India every 4 minutes. But we also know that it's not just the appalling incidence rate that we look at. It's about the social stigma associated with female body, the fact that not everyone is comfortable discussing about their symptoms, the fear associated with it, trauma and lack of support system, and a lot more that we are planning to discuss today. I want to first understand from you that when does the journey of a breast cancer patient really begin, and at what stage do they come to you?
The bird cancer continues to strike fear into the hardest of souls, as we all know. So when the patient has that report of their mammography or ultrasound or the scan in their hand stating that the new lump she had recently seen in the breast or in the armpit, or that thickening or swelling of a part of the breast, or that irritation or dumpling of the skin on the breast, or the redness or flanky skin in the nipple area, or pulling in the nipple or pain in the nipple area, is not just a temporary diagnosis. There is more to it, unfortunately, and that's where the journey begins. So cancer pervades many dimensions of an individual's life, reinforcing the need for a multidisciplinary treatment plan that focuses on the whole person. Given that the predominant approach in medicine is to identify and treat organic cause of disease, psychological interventions, as we all know, are rarely incorporated into a patient's treatment plan as proactive measures. The counselor is often approached only after the patient or family members have experienced a crisis situation. So patients perceive cancer as an assault on themselves. Life as it was known is no more. When people seek counseling, they have a story to tell. Patients often feel that even their stories about physical symptoms have been cut off by hurried healthcare providers. Some patients want assistance with eliciting information and action from the healthcare system. So the end purpose is for a counselor to be well informed, but not necessarily an instant expert. I think that's what it is all about.
What we also want to understand from you is that when a patient comes to you, what is the nature of conversation? Because we understand that they're coming with a lot of preconceived notions, and it's very difficult to actually break that ice with them, especially because at the end of the day, you're a stranger to them and they have just received this news. So, what is the nature of conversation? How do you really communicate to the patient?
There are many factors which influences the first conversation with the patient. When I say that, first of all, every patient is different and the background is different, so I can't go to them, or when they come to me, there is no script as such which is ready with me. So it goes on like, as the patient, like I said earlier, there is a story for the patient to tell me. So it always like, builds upon what they tell me or what they expect out of me. I'll be able to do that after a couple of minutes conversation. So but basically it is patients and families want to deal with someone who is not afraid of cancer, someone who is willing to enter the trenches and to be there with them. So patients carry personal assumptions about the meaning of cancer. So it is especially useful to be aware of the challenges of cancer, the attitudes that many cancer patients towards counseling also. So death or the threat of death factors in a new dimension to our working assumptions with the cancer patients. So cancer may be viewed as a chronic as opposed to curable condition. So thus the primary focus on counseling cancer patients is the management of a chronic illness. So the role of counselor is to maximize the existing system, not to change it. So I have to keep all these things in mind when I interact with the patients. So differences in the support system are likely to occur, but structural changes is not the specific intent of counseling. Okay, so this assumption is consistent with the view that most patients are socially healthy and the guidance can adjust to surrounding stressors. So increasing the confidence and skills of such individuals promotes health. So with rare exceptions, patients either have or can learn strategies to increase their well-being and enhance their strengths. Information and insight gained from within and outside the patient's awareness is useful in the therapeutic process. In the first place, the enhancement of hope and deepening of commitment grounds patients within a trusting environment and opens a window for exploration of possibilities. The enhancement of hope anchors patients within the turbulence of a life-threatening illness, while the deepening of commitment encourages patients to assume an active role in their care and recovery. I think that's how I take it, yeah.
What are the preconceived notions that a breast cancer patient, or for that matter, their family actually, come in and when they talk to you, what are those ideas that they have in their mind, something that they've read about or something that has been communicated to them, not through the doctor, but through people around them?
First and foremost, there are 5 Ds associated with cancer. So, be it breast cancer or any other form of cancer. So, it is fear of death, fear of disfigurement, fear of dependence, fear of disability, and the role disruptions. These are the psychological distress which normally all the patient has when they first meet me. So, like I said, they don't have that conviction that they'll get cured after the treatment. This can reoccur is the main worry. And then the disfigurement, that mastectomy parts, that kills some patients internally. And then depending on someone, like a family member throughout, that's again for some people it's very very traumatic. And then disability for some time while you are on chemo, the problem is like n number of problems they face. That's kind of a disability period, so that's also worries them. So these are the main problems, the preconceived notions which do they have. Sometimes what happens is when they are sitting there in the OPD to see the patient, first of all they do a lot of googling, so they come with certain notions that this is going to happen to me, that's going to happen to me. And then the next thing happens is like the person who sits closer to you or the family who sits closer to you, then they normally pick up a conversation with them and oh okay, all right, this is your problem, I had this problem and okay, I've been taking treatment for so many years and this is what I've been experiencing. So most of the time for the patient who receives a chemo first time, second time, third time, it is always not at all a pleasurable thing. And it comes with packages like nausea, vomiting throughout, and then bloated feeling, gastric issues. So there are so many issues, tastelessness, and then this hair fall. All these problems are associated with it. So they happen to discuss all these problems with the person who sits closer to you, and then who've been taking treatment for some time. And then before entering the doctor's cabin or before entering them to the psychologist cabin, they already have certain picture in their mind about okay, this is going to happen to me, and that's kind of deadly for them. My role is to build that rapport with them initially, to understand what all things are they perceiving when they say okay, they have this problem, and then try to kind of have a conversation, strike a conversation with them. And whatever knowledge I have gained from my doctors and with relation to the disease, I try to tell them, and then I try to kind of make that rapport with them, and then we take it forward. But for first of all, they have to have that confidence in me that okay, this is one person who is trying, who will help me and who will understand the physical pain also, the psychological issues also which I am undergoing. Then slowly they kind of open up with you, and then the journey begins.
Absolutely. And I think it is difficult for, firstly, to even, taking therapy is is a step that a lot of people put a lot of thought to. And especially when you've received a news like that, which is considered like it's a difficult piece of information to do. understand that, and to have someone else who's not part of who you do not know, your family, is actually telling you about it. So I think that first icebreaker is very crucial, and that's something that's a very important job that you do. And Shrikala, also sort of moving into, because we've spoken about how we speak to the patient, now where is the whole role of the family and their support system, their peer group? Do we also, because I understand that you also speak with the family along with the patient, or do you take it like a separate counseling session for the family?
In the immediate aftermath of the diagnosis and throughout the entire treatment period, the support of family and friends is critical. Like we all know that helping patients, regain a sense of normalcy, maintain emotional stability, and improve their chances of ensuring a positive clinical outcome. I help a family member with cancer. I would say, like, although each person with cancer is different, there are some general suggestions for showing support. Like it's always like, ask permission, before visiting, before giving advice, before asking questions, ask it is welcome or not. And then, make plans, be flexible, laugh together, allow for sadness, because every day can't be like, although the patient would be trying their level best to be like normal, but then there would be days wherein, they'll feel really low, and, they just want to be, they want to cry. So let them be with them, I mean, if you can laugh together, you allow them for that sadness also, offer to help, follow through. So these are some of the areas wherein the family and the, help, friends can help. When it comes to spouse, cancer has a major effect on marriages and other long-term partnerships also. So after a cancer diagnosis, like both individuals may experience sadness, anxiety, anger, or even hopelessness. So the effects of cancer vary from couple to couple. So for some couples, facing the challenges of cancer together strengthens their relationship. So, we have to find out, like, what chemistry do they share with each other. Then accordingly, sometimes partner, not with the patient, they do come to me and then take suggestions. Like, normally before the diagnosis we were like this, but after, mostly it's been observed that, they become very irritable, and they become very touchy. They simply want to be their old self, so they often can fail to make their new needs clear to their loved ones and caregivers. That's, which can lead to frustration or and anger. These things, I discuss it with the spouse and then make them understand, like, this is sometimes very difficult for the patient to make them understand that what they really want to be like, from you. It's want to be their old selves. That's what they want. But they are unable to make the person understand that this is what I want. Then there is frustration and anger. So this topic, when we discuss, the other person also understand, and they kind of, try to make that changes in their behavior, and then it normally works.
I think this is the fact that, we know about the incidents, we understand about the incidents in India, we understand the physical aspects of it, but the whole emotional and the mental trauma, and that what a patient goes through, and not just the patient, but their loved ones, like you've just said, that it's a very important point that you've highlighted, that they want to go back to their old selves, because that's the part they want to connect in before they had cancer. And to go back to that and to have that difficulty to accept that you might have not just, physically, but a lot of things and you have changed, and that acceptance overall is it's a very difficult step for not just them but also for their partners and other family members to understand. And I think that's the gap that you sort of try to communicate to them, and you bridge that gap.
And everyone reacts differently to stressful situations, no? So it depends on your background, your social support from family and friends, your financial situation. That's also very important. Like suppose, like, this particular lady, she is the patient and she is the only, breadwinner in the family, and she's been diagnosed with cancer, and this treatment is going to take maybe an year or 1.5 years. I mean, it will naturally affect her so much. So we have to deal with that part also. We'll try to understand the financial aspect also. Simply going there and telling her, like, everything will be all right and all that won't help. So we have to find out all those aspects, the background and the social support and the financial situations, and then accordingly counsel them.
Do you also suggest some community groups for the patient or the family to become a part of, or any initiatives wherein they can feel more heard and speak with people who have gone through the same situation?
So people living with cancer often benefit from the practical help and advice they receive from others who have lived through similar situations, which really helps, So support groups bring people together and provide a safe forum for exchanging perspectives, sharing concerns, and gaining confidence to face the future. So support groups are typically led by a trained healthcare professional. One such organization is Indian Cancer Society. You must have heard about that. It's they do a lot of activities like in for Medanta. Before COVID, they used to visit the hospital every Monday and then literally go and counsel the breast cancer patient. And then for the patient, seeing a person who had undergone this process maybe many years back, say like 20 years back, 25 years back, and now this lady is telling me like look at me, I had this problem and now I'm doing absolutely fine. That makes a lot of difference. So peer support is a term used to refer to advice and help received from fellow patients or people without medical training. So peers can be trained to offer guidance without being expert themselves. So that can, peer support can help patients and family caregivers feel supported by a community or navigate the complex process of managing a life-altering illness, such as, cancer only. So peer support in person or through web-based platforms lets a person vent their frustration, learn about new treatments or research protocols, and exchange information. So the key to how this works is likely quite simple. Knowing that others have had similar experiences that they can help may make all the differences in how someone lives through the challenges of cancer. People with peer support can learn how to communicate better with the healthcare team because of the experience of others. So learning about someone else's difficult experience make your life or the journey little easier. Hearing that you are not alone can inspire you or give you a little more confidence to overcome a difficult symptom or a side effect. More often, peer support may help explain treatment options or provide a deeper understanding of your diagnosis.
The involvement of a community, to have someone who's gone through the same thing, discussing with them is a little easier than someone you might find a little difficulty because they haven't gone through the same situation as you have. Now, I feel like because of the COVID situation, do you feel there's also a little bit of gap in this communication? Because we have offline communities, but since because of cancer a lot of patients were also unable to recognize their symptoms or the fear of coming to hospitals, so there was a lot of gap that was created in diagnosis. And how do you think that situation has really, the pandemic situation has had that impact on the patients?
This has a very crucial impact because like we were discussing, feeling supported, that always improves health outcomes. That support group interaction, that the personal lack of personal interaction and talking therapy which is missing due to pandemic, that's something which had a bad impact on the patient and the family also. It has become, though for me also it's like I've been asked to counsel patients telephonically, which doesn't give that outcome which is there when I personally talk to a patient.
Absolutely. And I think, I hope that with the improving, we are definitely at a better stage with respect to the pandemic. And we hope that this situation, once it's settling down now. So with that also, we are able to look closely and back again at other healthcare issues that sort of got neglected, and especially cancer. And with that, Shrikala, with I just want to know if you have a message for our listeners here, because we understand that in India, breast cancer is something that we do know one or the other person who might know someone else who's gone through the same. So what is your message?
Whenever it's been diagnosed, I always treat this as like a grief only. For any patient, it's a time for grief, so one should treat this as a grief only. So there are different stages for a grief to be dealt. So the first one is denial. Obviously, the patient will deny it, and then comes anger, and then bargaining, and then there would be a stage of depression, and then finally acceptance. So once this acceptance happens, a psychologist working in a large urban cancer hospital, we were introduced to the fragility and sacredness of life. So each day we strive to make a difference in the lives of patients and their families. That's what we are trying to do. So it became evident that the difference lay in the means, not in the goals. The lived experience of our work taught us that the task was endless, the challenges relentless. At some deep level, it was necessary to be fully committed to caring and to understand that life is a privilege. So approximately 1 in 3 people will develop cancer at some point in their lifetime. That is ironical. So the invasive nature of this disease and its treatment produce distressing physical symptoms such as pain, nausea, for some it is fatigue, anorexia. I just wanted to say that, accompanying this psychological changes, we are always there to help you out. So please come, open up, try to talk to people. Your communication should always be clear, crystal clear. There should be transparency so that the other person can get into your shoes and try to help you.
So, thank you, Sreekala, for joining the SPAG Dialogue podcast and for sharing your experience as a therapist counseling breast cancer patients. And for all our listeners, this was Sreekala Nair, and I'm Neha Chandra, and you're listening to SPAG Dialogue.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to tune in to more such conversations, subscribe to the SPAG Dialogue podcast or visit our website spagdialogue.com.